Hey guys, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in, coming back and watching. I really appreciate it. Hope your day is going well. And I am in On1 Photo Raw 2019 today, and I'm having a lot of fun because it's a great product. I've done a few videos about it. I'm going to keep doing videos about it because I really enjoy it. And frankly, there's a whole lot to talk about. And hope you're enjoying my whatever it is, journey down the creative path with On1. In this video, I'm going to just basically show off how the tools are so powerful and how they can work and how you can do a lot of different things to a photo. In fact, I have a photo that frankly was kind of garbage looking, to be really honest, and I kind of saved the photo, for lack of a better word, in On1. So let me just show you. Here it is. This was shot in London. That is the Shard over there, and I'm standing on top of a it's a legal place. I wasn't climbing. I wasn't roof-topping, as they say. I think the building's called the Walkie Talkie. I mean, that's what it's shaped like. I'm sure there's a real name for it, but they've got a sky garden rooftop deck. You're shooting through some thick glass, but you're really elevated. It's a great view, as you can see, but conditions weren't great. It's kind of got ugly tints and colors, and it's just lacking, well, everything except for the scene itself, which I like. So after I hacked around in On1 and played around for a while and just experimented with some filters, some masking and all that, I turned it into that. And you know, like I said, it saved the photo for me. It now looks a lot more like I want it to look, which is I accentuated some of the blues. I made it a little bit more sunset-y because I was there at sunset, but the sunset wasn't particularly awesome. So I'm going to reset all these filters, and then we'll jump into this edit. Okay, here we are. Now, the first thing I did is actually go over here and get the retouch tool, and I just wiped a tiny bit right there just to remove that stuff. It takes care of it for you, and you're ready to go. Now, I'm going to get back in view mode. You can always just hit the Z key to get back in view mode if you're in one of those other tools. Now, I've got to look at my notes because honestly, I could never remember all the stuff that I did. So I'm starting in the Develop tab here, and this is like where you do your basic adjustments. And this is where I started out and was just kind of experimenting. Literally, it was just hey, can I do something with this photo? Just something, like anything, just to make a decent photo. So I started messing around. Let me see here. I did contrast of about 35 or 36. There you go. I took the highlights down a bit. They were just too bright for me in the sky. So something about like that. And I increased the shadows a little bit as well. And that was kind of basically like balancing out the light, which is something I do a lot at the start of my photo editing. Next up was temperature intent. So I took the temperature down, and my initial intent was, hey, I gotta make this a bit bluer. So immediately, even when I first looked at the photo before I started editing, I knew I was going to be changing the temperature. But I wasn't really thinking about the tint. But if you look at it, it does have a kind of a green cast. And that's what tint is so good at. Obviously, if you go left, it becomes more green. But if you go right, it becomes more magenta. And I went to 100. So let me get to there. There it is. And then I was like, hey, you know what? I might be onto something here. This photo might actually work, because part of what I dislike so much about that base photo, there it is lacking contrast and all that stuff. But really, I didn't like the colors. Now I'm more in the blue realm, and I feel like I've got that ugly color cast under control. So I'm kind of, I feel like I'm rocking here. I did a little bit of saturation. So that was 42. So, a little bit, and a little bit of vibrance, like a 6, I think, 7. That'll work. Okay, so I was basically done here, and this is when I popped over to Effects. So Effects is basically where you get all your filters. So you do kind of your basic stuff in Develop, and then I pop over to Effects to do some customization. I'm going to click Add Filter, and the first one I'm going to get is Dynamic Contrast, which I just love. It's an incredibly powerful filter. And it defaults to medium and large, having a setting of 15 and 20. And you know what? I just left it there. The only thing I did is I took the highlights down again to about -44. And so let me show you the impact that filter has had. There it is before and after. A dynamic contrast does a really good job of like crisping up those edges and giving you a little bit more, it's almost like structure kind of. It gives you a little bit of kick to the photo. Sort of like the way a clarity tool works. Anyway, I like it quite a bit. Next up, I wanted to do a little color work. So I clicked Add Filter and clicked on Split Tone. And there's a lot of presets here and that sort of thing. I tend to do customization myself. So I took the hue all the way to the left in the highlights. And then I took the amount to 50 from 20. And this was purely experimentation. Jim didn't come in and think, oh, you know what I need to do is whatever. I just wanted to get a little bit more color in the sky, and that was a great way to do that. Let me check my, let's see, I'm leaving that. Actually, I bumped up this to about 25 in the shadows. So something about like that. Let me show you the before and after. There's before, again, kind of greener in the lower half, and after now a lot more blue. And a lot of that is because I added the blue tint to the shadows. So I've got a little bit of a, not quite Blade Runner-esque feel, but, you know, bluer, kind of that, I don't know, I just think of like futuristic cities as being kind of blue with some, you know, color popping here and there. I don't know, maybe I'm getting off topic. Then I went and got a filter I don't use a lot. I don't use it in any product, and that's the LUT filter. LUTs can be very powerful, and I don't use them a lot in Luminar or anywhere else, but I wanted to try it. So I went to ColourPop, and then I went down here to Punch, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of crispy and contrasty, but it was too heavy for me. So I took this the opacity down quite a bit to about 35, and let me show you that before and after. It gave it a nice little bit of punch, right? It's called Color Punch, and it gave it a nice bit of contrast there in the especially in the bottom half of the photo. So one more time, before and after. So I'm liking that already. And then another filter, I went and got Tone Enhancer. So Tone Enhancer is a great all-around filter, very much to me reminiscent of the Tone filter in Luminar, which I use like on every photo. So Tone Enhancer is powerful. Again, I did highlights down again. And so, you know, I'm hitting the highlights quite a bit here. And it's simply because I just want to keep that sky kind of under control. And I lifted the shadows a little bit, I think at 18. So nothing major. Again, you know, kind of minor stuff. There's before, there's after. The only thing about that Color Punch LUT on the previous filter was because of the heavy contrast, it did darken that bottom a little bit. So there's before, there's after. That is why I lifted the shadows a little bit here with the Tone Enhancer. And then I was like, you know, I really like this. I might do some local adjustments. And so there's the local adjustment tab. You just click over there, and that allows you to really customize and mask in things. Obviously, you can, well, maybe not obviously, but you can also mask in any of these filters over here. You just click on that little icon, and you can get into the masking options. But I went over to the local tab, and I started with an adjustment for the top, and I need to look at it. The first thing I did is I said, all right, I want to adjust the top. So I went and got the gradient mask, and I'm going to say linear bottom. If you look at that icon, it shows you white on the top and black on the bottom. So remember, white reveals and black conceals. So I want to reveal my edits in the sky. So I've got a gradient. I've clicked on linear bottom because that will show the edits in the sky. And I'm clicking there. Now, it defaults to an exposure of -1. I'm going to go back to 0 on that. And all I'm going to do is bump up the temperature, like to 4 or something, 5, that seems good. And a little bit of vibrance as well. And, you know, keep in mind, because I've applied this as a linear bottom adjustment, it's only adjusting above where this mask is, right? So this is your gradient. I can move this around in the photo if I want to. I just kind of placed it right there, left the gradient zone about where it is. So I'm primarily just doing adjustments in the top half of the photo. So I think that's looking pretty good. There's the before, there's the after. Not a big change, but again, I wasn't going for a big change. And the beauty of local adjustments is you can just get another one. So I'm going to say add adjustment. This time I'm going to get the gradient, and I'm going to say linear top, and I'm going to drop it right there. And once again, the exposure defaults to -1. So I'm actually going to bump that up to about 0.3 just to brighten that bottom section of the photo. And one of the things I don't like is the tint. The water's still a little too blue, kind of green. And, you know, green's fine if you're talking about grass or like, you know, fields or forests or something. But like in a cityscape, I don't really do a lot of greens. Personal preference, you might like it. It's kind of that futuristic look, but I bumped up the tint about 26, just kind of overcoming some of that green, and I bumped up the vibrance about 15 as well, something like that. And that's really it for my edits. I'm going to click Z to get out of that masking brush. Let me show you the before. You know, washed out. Again, I'm shooting through glass, so I had the lens literally up against the glass, so I didn't get any reflections. I'm lined up with all kinds of tourists. Everybody's just clicking away and doing selfies and all that stuff. But that's how I started. You know, wrong colors, wrong tint. It's really dingy in the bottom half of the photo, really kind of brown and green. And the top half I think is too bright, and the whole photo is lacking contrast and punch. But you know, I think I've come a long way. It may or may not be to your taste. I was just really happy. In fact, looking at it, I actually might go up here and take some of this vibrance down a little bit in the sky and the temperature a little bit as well. I'm not trying to oversell it. I'm not trying to say, wow, I was standing there in this beautiful sunset, because that really wasn't the case. It was just, you know, a cloudy day in London, but I was able to give it a very different look. One more time, there's the before. And there's the after. That's the power of On1. I mean, there's literally so much you can do. But I was really happy with the result, because it's much more in line with my liking for, you know, the levels of contrast and the levels of sort of punch, if you will. Both that LUT filter and the dynamic contrast filter helped a lot with that. And then, of course, the colors way more in line with my preferences. So kind of green, brown, dingy, kind of grungy looking, and much more interesting looking to my eye. And like I said, that's the power of On1. A lot of fun, easy to work with, and all that stuff. And that's it for this one, my friends. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it very much. If you got any questions, feel free to leave comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you real soon. Take care, and adios.